millions of dollars worth of hi-fi equipment, speakers, amps, DACs, turntables. Oh my. And there was actually some absolute standouts for value and for absurdity. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's go on a journey from the absurd to the awesome. Now please stick till the end. It will be worth it because there is one product on here that defies logic. Let's start with the awesome. Now, I am not a huge fan of powered speakers, not because, well, because I haven't liked any of the ones that I've heard. They just haven't moved the needle for me. They don't feel like they could really replace a 2-channel system. Separate amp, separate DAC, separate turntable, although you're not getting an integrated turntable in any of the powered speakers, but you are getting an integrated phono preamp. So the only thing you have to do is hook up a turntable. I went into the Klipsch room and I heard the 5s, the 7s, and the 9s. Frankly, that room sounded better than a lot of the high-end rooms. It sounded better than most rooms. And I got curious because there was bass and there was clarity. And it wasn't overly forward. So I talked to Jill. She is the VP of marketing. And we started talking about things, talk about the app and how it's been updated. I am very excited to get those in. I wouldn't say the most excited I've ever been to get a product in, but it is definitely high up on the list. A lot of times stuff comes in, I'm like, oh great, it's here. But then it just sits in a pile. Sometimes things come in and I'm like, I want to hear this thing. Very, very excited about the Klipsch. 5s, 7s, 9s. I can't wait. If you're new here, if you just found the channel, please subscribe to the channel. We have over 685 videos, so chances are there is something there for you, from home at the theater, DACs, amps, turntables, speakers, everything dealing with audio. So please like this video and subscribe. Geshelli Labs, of course, my friends, my kindred spirits. Geshelli Labs came out with a new AKM 4499, which may be the first implementation of the 4499 chipset from AKM, which is a Delta Sigma chip and a stepped ladder chip. I don't really understand, but I am excited to get it in. I think for a company to be able to be like, hey, this new chip exists, and be able to push out a prototype in 2 or 3 weeks, is extraordinary. Geshelli Labs keeps pushing things farther and farther, and they keep doing it in a time that is much less than anybody else. And that's the thing. They're a small family-run company. And Gino, I'm not going to say Gino's the head of it, Sherry's the head of it, but if he wants to do something, he can just do it. They don't have to get a committee together to make a decision on what they want to do. I am extremely excited to get the 4499 DAC in. Is it going to make a difference? I don't know. I have no idea, but this to me sounds like a combination between a Delta Sigma DAC and a multi-bit or even an R2R DAC. Obviously, it's not an R2R. It's not all discrete components, but I'm excited nonetheless. Geshelli Labs. Also, most of these that I'm going to talk about are all affordable products. And I think there was more affordable products at Expona 2023 than there was in 2022. Q Acoustics and Acoustic Energy. I have the Q Acoustics Model 5000, so I have the 5020s, and if you remember or you know anything about Q Acoustics, the 3000 series or the 3020s have been kind of their go-to affordable speaker. So they're running right now in my living room. And I am so excited to get them in here and listen to a little bit of near field, because Q Acoustics, I think, is one of those companies that you want to watch because they have value in mind. And Ascend Acoustics, also, they're imported by the same company, Fidelity Imports. And I got a chance to listen to their floor standing. I've had the AE100s in, and they were great. Absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite rooms, again, was one of the affordable rooms, and that was the Acoustic Energy. I think it was, now granted, it was their $3,000 floor standing speakers, but they are sending me their affordable, I think they're around $1,000 for a pair of the floor standing speakers. I'm very excited for those. It always amazes me how good some of these rooms can sound and how much better they sound than some of the really ridiculous equipment. Most of these rooms are nothing but bass. It's either all bass and all treble or all bass. It always perplexes me on how someone can sit back and say, hey, this actually sounds good. Of course, the SourcePoint 8, which is the new Mofi speaker, designed and built, hand-built each one, just kidding, by Andrew Jones. So these are a smaller version of the SourcePoint 10s. This speaker was so popular that 2 of my patrons purchased a pair at the show. Now they have to be shipped to them and everything. That is pretty significant because last year, I don't believe anybody purchased anything outside of a CD or a record. So to have 2 people, and this was it was a large group. I think we had about 40 people out there. To have 2 of my patrons buy a not insignificantly priced speaker at around $3,000. And most of my guys are very value focused. For them to sell 2 of those, they're doing something right, or at least it's a sonic signature that really resonated, no pun, puns all over that one, with people. So I am excited. I talked to John over at Mofi to get a pair of the SourcePoint 8s in. They are $3,000, so that's still pushing it for my channel, but it's more affordable than the SourcePoint 10s, so I'm excited to get those in as well. Very excited. I was blown away when I went into the Cambridge audio room. You could tell as soon as you walked in that they were dead serious about hi-fi and really expanding their footprint. I listened to their new streamer as well as the DAC Magic. I had the DAC Magic in, but I think I have the newer version of the DAC Magic in. Then I also saw their turntable. They had some KEFs running, which were great, but it wasn't necessarily the equipment, which I think is going to be great. It was the vibe and the attitude of everybody working for Cambridge. I never felt like they were trying to do any type of sales presentation. I never felt like they were trying to push an agenda. I just felt like these guys were extremely motivated and they really loved music. I didn't feel like there was anybody that was just, oh, this is just a salesman, or this is just someone that is wanting to gain market share. Obviously, everybody wants to gain market share, increase sales, increase revenue, increase profits. I even got to meet their CEO. And the one thing everybody had in common was they absolutely loved music. I was talking to them about obscure musical artists, and they're like, oh yeah. Even some of my stuff they recognize. So very excited about the future of Cambridge Audio. I feel like they are in great hands, and they are going to be continuing to push the envelope. Rotel. Got a chance to talk to Jeffrey. He is a great guy, works for Rotel and Pro-Ject, basically that whole group of companies. They're coming out with some new stuff. They're also already out with some balanced phonostage stuff and balanced cartridges, moving coil cartridges. With a balanced moving coil cartridge, you automatically increase the gain coming out of the cartridge, so you don't have to boost it as much with a phonostage. And so it's quieter. Now, it's a bit outside of my price range, but the concept is really interesting to me. And I think soon I'll probably be trying out a balanced cartridge and a balanced phono preamp. Pro-Ject and Rotel are also brands that have fairly affordable pricing, so I'm excited to get some of their new stuff in. And finally, we must talk about some of the absurdity of Expona, the absurdity of a high-end audio show. And this is one step, a giant leap away from just expensive stuff. This is expensive, absolute craziness. And that is a company called Entrek. Maybe it's not the company name. I'm just going to bottom line it for you. It's a wooden grounding box that contains crystals for $10,000. And then you have to switch out the crystals after you've used up their grounding capabilities. Let me repeat that. It is a wooden box filled with rocks for $10,000 that you ground your products to. You ground your amps to it. It is quite possibly the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. I'm going to put a link to it just in case, and I do not have an affiliate relationship with them. It legit just looks like a box of rocks. And one of my patrons was so interested in it, he couldn't get it out of his brain. He had to go back twice because obviously they only talk to you about this when you have an appointment. So basically when you're one-on-one and the guy can just sell it to you and wear you down. Now I get there is a certain disconnect between science and actually listening. I have heard in my experience things that really shouldn't sound different because of the science. But there's a certain point where I think people take advantage of that and just push the envelope into chicanery or being a borderline con artist. If you think it sounds good, great. But $10,000 for a wooden box of rocks is borderline criminal. I don't know. A $10,000 box of rocks for your system. I had a great time at Expona. A lot of people. I got to spend a lot of time with my patrons. We had Emotiva doing giveaways. We had Just Audio show up to hang out. We had Geshelli Labs show up to hang out with the patrons. It was a ball. Next year, I think we're gonna have such a big crowd that I think we're gonna actually have to move hotels and get a bigger HQ. So, if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night, we have Patreon-only Zooms, Patreon-only Discord, Patreon-only Facebook. You can also use the links in the description. Those are affiliate links, which means if you click and you buy, you do get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more. So, it's a great way to support the channel. You can sign up for Amazon, Rune, or Tidal. Links in the description. Click sign up. They have a trial period. Even if you quit, I get a couple of dollars. Then, you can also use the thanks button down at the bottom of the video next to the share button. Click, buy me a cup of coffee, but don't feel compelled to buy me anything. So, don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe to some of these new products that are coming out soon, and fill your soul with happiness. And stay away from the $10,000 box of rocks. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.